Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome to War Room Pandemic. It's our Saturday special. This is Descent into Hell, Part 4. The Chinese people, voices of defiance. And the operant word there is defiance, I guess also voices. Today, for the next 2 hours, we will give free rein to 4 individuals from mainland China. A couple who have gotten out will tell you in excruciating detail about what it is to live under a totalitarian dictatorship that is the Chinese Communist Party. It is the 9th of May, Saturday the 9th of May, the year of our Lord 2020, in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. It's cold. I think it got to 37, 38 degrees last night. Beautiful, cold, clear morning this morning. You wouldn't know that because you're sheltering in place, so you can't go outside. Or you're not supposed to go outside, I guess, except Greg Mance, did you shave?
I did.
I didn't even recognize you. We got Greg Mance from the engine room is now front and center with Jack Maxey. I didn't recognize it first. I was a new guy here. Listen, we got all our distribution platforms. We can get that 7.5 million downloads on the podcast, hundreds of millions of views, or 100 million views everywhere on all our different distribution platforms. I want to thank the folks at G News and G Media and GTV that are kind enough to subtitle this in Mandarin later in the day and then blow it through the firewall that we're going to talk about later, to the Chinese people through VPN. So we really appreciate that. We've got quite a broadcast today. Voices of defiance of the Chinese people. What we're trying to do is coach up the deplorables every Saturday to go through a different aspect of this great war that the Chinese Communist Party is at. They're at war with their own people. They're at war with people in the United States of America and all of mankind. I want to start with, though, we have different categories of people that have aided and abetted institutions and people that have aided and abetted the Chinese Communist Party over many, many decades. And they fall into different categories: fellow travelers, running dogs, useful idiots. We have it's a Wall Street Journal today. The same day, Kevin Rudd, former Prime Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd, Labour Prime Minister back in 2007, 2010. Jack, I think memory serves.
Yes, he was.
Then he had another Kevin Rudd, and a China expert. Kevin Rudd, a China expert, and he was kind of there during the time when the Chinese Communist Party was getting huge inroads below the radar scope that had to be exposed by some journalists who came forward and said, I think it was Silent Takeover, or I'll get the name of the book, came here and testified on Capitol Hill many years ago and really started to awaken the American people. I believe they came to the House Intelligence Committee and talked about what was going on, essentially during Kevin Rudd's watch. Kevin Rudd's in the Guardian newspaper today, and he's talking about the Murdoch empire putting out the false narrative through the Daily Telegraph, I guess it is, or others that they're pushing up in Australia, saying that they're putting forward the false narrative that this virus came from Wuhan or came from the lab. And we'll see that all over time. Rudd is criticizing the intelligence agencies for being corrupted or having something like during the weapons of mass destruction fiasco in the Iraq War. All we know is that people are doing a lot of work in that. We'll have to see. But Kevin Rudd really goes out of his way to kind of take off how guilty the Chinese Communist Party is from their knowledge of and the suppression of the information of the human transmission and community spread. Also, Richard Haas, and Richard Haas gets honorable mention this weekend for useful idiot. Not a running dog yet. Okay, has not gone to a running dog, has not gone to a fellow traveler, but Richard Haas over the Council of Foreign Relations, and I'm sure And Richard, this shows the respect we have for you, because even on Morning Joe, you won't get as much time as you're going to get on our show this week, because we're going to every day go through and deconstruct. He has a major thought piece, is what we call it, in the Wall Street Journal. A Cold War with China would be a mistake. A Cold War with China would be a mistake. Richard, you're absolutely correct. A Cold War would be a mistake. Since they're at a hot war with us, information and economic war, already in a hot war. And if you believe the President of the United States that this attack was worse than Pearl Harbor and worse than 9/11, then I'd actually say, and I'm just going back to the two colonels who are now major generals who were in the South China Morning Post the other day, give me a shout out. The writers of Unrestricted Warfare that walk through information war and economic war and kinetic war. Hey, I don't know, but maybe if it's an attack worse than Pearl Harbor, maybe that's kinetic. Maybe this biological attack or this pandemic is kinetic. But Richard, you're absolutely correct. A Cold War with China would be a mistake because they're at a hot war with us. Now, that's not the reason he makes it. This is the globalist version of the world. That's really, these transnational things are much more important. So the Westphalian system of the nation state, the United States doesn't need to defend itself as a nation. It has global change, global warming, pandemics, all this. Don't worry about China as an entity. Well, obviously, that's dead wrong. And, of course, he's got this great thing. The United States is really their fault. So for the deplorables, also you hedge funds folks and the news producers, it's your fault. First off, the United States should think of physician heal thyself. That should be the watchword. It's, quote, physician heal thyself. It's all the United States' fault. The question we have, we're going to spend more time going through this line by line and deconstructing it and showing our respect for Richard Haas, a useful idiot of the Chinese Communist Party. But the reason we wanted – here's the important question. Is this Joe Biden's foreign policy? The American people got to know, Richard Haas and Joe Scarborough – the two questions we have to ask, and Joe, we don't want to ask the question on the intern. That may be outside the little bounds of thing. We want to ask the question: do you have a passport? Have you ever been anywhere? Is the farthest Joe Scarborough has been away from home is South Padre Island? Just asking, Joe, with your international experience. Oh, that's right, you married a Mika, so you can get all the great Zbigniew Brzezinski, all of his great knowledge of what he did under the Carter administration. Just another fascinating, just a great run you had there. Your dad had, Mika. But no, the question before us and the American people have to have answered. Forget the Tara. The Tara Reid thing's its own thing. That's going to get either worked out or not worked out. She'll have her day, but the key thing for Joe Biden, we're going to have Robert Kuttner on. He's a progressive. He's a hardcore old labor guy, super anti-CCP. Kuttner from the American Prospect is going to join us. We have Kyle Bass and Robert Kuttner on Monday. Monday's show is going to be amazing because Kyle Bass is a free market buccaneer, right, capitalist, anti-CCP, and Robert Kuttner's in the opposite end of the spectrum. He's an old hardcore, I don't want to say Stalinist, but he's a hardcore labor, he's a hardcore labor guy, anti-CCP. And he has a brilliant article in American Prospect we're going to talk about on Monday, which is Joe Biden going to lose this entire election on trade? Donald Trump was elected because of trade. Not immigration was very important, don't get me wrong, but it was in those upper Midwest states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, throw in Ohio and Iowa, it was trade, and trade means China. And so we have to ask the question. We're going to have Kuttner deconstruct Biden's globalist trade agenda. He makes a very compelling argument. He could lose the entire election on his thing on trade. We'll get to that. But we have to know, and I think we've got to make some real pressure to Joe Biden. We listen, Joe, actually, we do listen to the Proof of Life podcast you have. So we do listen to that. We have to know if Richard Haas is an advisor to Biden. We have to know this is the globalist. And I know the radio audience can't see this. It's the Wall Street Journal from today. We're going to get this up online. We're going to spend a lot of time early in the week as a show of respect from Richard Haas because nobody else will talk about it, but we will. And the reason is that this is what useful idiots do for cover for the CCP. The whole thing is making all the excuses. They're not an expansionist power. They're not this. They're not that. So he's completely lost. We're going to coach him up. In fact, we'd like to hashtag War Room Pandemic. We're going to put this up that we want the deplorables to coach him up about One Belt, One Road, Made in China 2025, the Huawei rollout, some of the stuff. We've got a former Huawei engineer on the show today. So we'll go through. His great line is, a rising chorus of American voices. That would be us. now argues that confronting China should become the organizing principle of U.S. foreign policy.
Well, I just posted it to hashtag War Room Pandemic with your question. Is this now Joe Biden's foreign policy?
So, ladies and gentlemen, we need the deplorables to weigh in here. And be fair, read it. We may have to cut and paste it if you don't subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. We may have to cut and paste that. Murdoch's won't mind. This is getting good publicity here. It's got to be read. This is a must read. A Cold War with China would be a mistake. You're absolutely on that one. We agree with Richard Haas because they're at a hot war with us. Useful idiot Richard Haas may go into the useful idiot Hall of Fame. You go from useful idiot to running dog to fellow traveler. You know, you got it in the pantheon here. You're just a useful idiot right now. Okay, we're going to get into the from the ridiculous to the sublime. We're going to talk now to actual folks and by the way, Kevin Rudd's in The Guardian today. We're also going to get that up on Monday and talk about that. Kevin Rudd, the former prime minister, making a whole argument how the Fox News apparatus and the Breitbart and One America and everybody else is now in a Greek chorus of support of this, Trump's made-up thing on China and Wuhan and the lab and all that. So we're going to get into all that about the. But here's the buried lead, folks. Whether it's Beijing, or whether it's the Wall Street Journal, or whether it's the Guardian, they understand that you are now getting woke, okay? They understand that the American people, this is not about us. People don't care about us. They care about you. So in Beijing, this is why we're on CCTV every night. They're doing a full beat down on Global Times, and every night, we're the worst people in the world. We're a bunch of barbarians. We're leading the country into a war. And you got the Wall Street Journal, the Council on Foreign Relations. Richard Haas is he's the president of the Council on Foreign Relations. Council on Foreign Relations had a lot of great calls. We'll go through and analyze there. They've had a lot of great calls over the last 20 years. They really know how to advise a great power, how to act like a great power. We're in this jam with all your PP&E and all your manufacturing over in China, run by the CCP. We're kowtowing to them to get all this because of the likes of useful idiot Richard Haas. But no, so Council on Foreign Relations, here's why this is up here. They're afraid that you're getting woke, and so now they have to school you. Everything you're talking about your country, everything you're talking about China and the rise of the CCP, no. You don't understand. It's climate change. It's all these transnational things. Forget about the nation state. Forget about other nation states because they're scared to death that you're getting woke. And once you're woke, you're going to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We want some changes, okay? This is why it's important, not just for Richard Haas. It's important to find out if this is Joe Biden. We want to know if you embrace this. If you embrace this, let us know. And here's why. Because quite simply, this dog, running dog or not, this dog's not going to hunt up in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in the fall of 2020, okay? Folks get it, okay? This is not sellable. So we have to know if this is what Joe Biden's going to sell. And Richard Haas, we're trying to compliment you. We respect you as a thinker. We think you're dead wrong, right? We look for the day that you're on our side arguing because you're obviously a very intelligent guy. I think you're on the faculty over at Georgetown, the school where I got my master's degree in national security policy. I know it upsets them. I used to be on the top 100 grad. Just kidding. Off the list. Just like my undergraduate. Off the list. So now we want to turn to I tell you what, we're blowing out of time here. I think we'll go through the first segment, and I want to. We've got guests.
We're talking about Mika and her foreign policy experience.
We're going to get to our first guest in the next segment. We're going to get everything in. Don't.
Her dad was the one that architected handing back the Panama Canal to Panama, and let's remember, both those ports, both on the east and the west coast, are now controlled by Chinese communist interests.
Thanks. This is big. By the way, this still gets my dad upset. You know, you go to these conservative gatherings and meetings and you got the table with all the guys that got the thing. There's still a guy down there, you know, with getting $5 a month, right, for guys that are about the Panama Canal. My dad's hitting that guy for $10. Hit him for $10 ever since, 76? So
oh, yeah.
He's hitting him for 10. He's still upset. And they're right. My 90-year-old dad, the greatest generation, he's right because he said, hey, the Chinese or Russians are going to get it one day and then they're going to block all of our traffic. So what happens? You get the Chinese control the whole port apparatus. Okay, short commercial break. We're going to return with our first guest from mainland China to talk about the rule of the Chinese Communist Party and what the people of China think about that in a moment.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this. Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active like Copperfit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up. A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with Copperfit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
Copperfit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
Copperfit, live limitless.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx.
Next.
So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
I see what's possible instead of what's here. Others see cracked concrete, broken backboards, run-down courts. I see a way to bring pride back to communities. Art can change it all. Bright colors, a bold vision, and it can be somewhere that brings people together for games or hangouts or whatever. A place that makes people proud, like this is my neighborhood. That's why I made Project Backboard and a site with GoDaddy. How will you make your mark? Make the world you want.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
On the John Fredericks Radio Network, on America's Voice.news, the platform for the Trump Revolution, that is Dish Channel 219. I want to thank the folks out in Colorado and in Richmond for helping put this show on, particularly helping put these specials on Saturday. Newsmax TV, that's now in 70 million homes. Chris Ruddy and the team, and of course, radio all throughout the nation, including in Chicago, and we have other radio announcements we'll be making next week, and throughout the world on Nexus.org, IRS, and of course, in subtitle in Mandarin later in the day, on GTV, G Media, and G News. Thanks to the folks over there with Miles Guo and the team, always helping out to help us organize this, co-produce it, and make sure that we line up the correct people. Now I want to turn to our first guest from mainland China, Li Zhang, and he's known as Eric to us. It makes it easier. Li Zhang, though, family is over there, has been over there, true hero. Lee, tell us about the persecution of your family. Give us your family's history with the Chinese Communist Party.
Thank you, Mr. Bannon. I sincerely appreciate that you and your American friends are separating CCP from us. My family was deemed as a political class enemy against the CCP after so-called communism liberation in 1949. Just because my grandfather was a chief judge in a high court in a provincial state before that. And everyone else was entitled to blame and torture my family in public. My grandfather was dragged by CCP Red Guards to the street and was whipped in public for many times. And my father, together with his brothers and sisters, were forced to kneel beside him to watch. And my grandmother couldn't bear.
Yeah, let me get this right.
Yes,
so your grandfather was a chief justice or chief judge in a regional court, and when the communists took over, they dragged him out in the town square in front of people and made his children kneel next to him, and they whipped him in front of everybody?
Yes, they made children to kneel beside him to watch.
What did that do to your grandfather? How did he survive that? What happened to your grandfather after he was abused by the Chinese Communist Party?
My grandfather was tortured like this for many times, but he narrowly survived. But my grandmother couldn't bear all this and committed suicide in 1959.
So your grandmother ended up killing herself because she just couldn't take her husband and the family being tortured?
Yes, correct.
What was the Chinese Communist Party, what was the crime that they charged your grandfather, who was a chief justice in a regional court? What was the crime that they charged him with to whip him and to torture him?
Because my grandfather was an official in their eyes before 1949. He served the Kuomintang. So after 1949, CCP classified these kind of people into different groups. They named them in different ways. For my father is the evilest one. I don't know how to translate. Maybe they call them the Black 5 groups. That means in this group, there are 5 kinds of people who are the top enemies against the CCP. Thank you, sir.
Talk to us about starting then back in the 1950s, when you look at the Chinese Communist Party all the way up to the 70s. Walk us through Chinese history, because the microcosm, Eric, that happened to your family and happened to your grandparents, and obviously your dad, also happened to the nation overall with some big movements. Can you walk because the American people think of the 1950s, for us, it was a golden age after the war. We had the building of the suburbs, this kind of golden age of the 50s, right? Tremendous economic progress, tremendous freedom, the really growth of America into a superpower. Walk our audience through what happened to China over those years from basically 1949 all the way to the mid-70s.
In my eyes, after 1949, communism will do 3 things. First, the cue to take, because the core ideology of communism is based on taking down every bit of current social structure, robbing lands and wealth, and setting up a regime with guns. Second, the cue to be more powerful. Communists will not gain the ultimate power until anyone is afraid and compromised. Third, the cue to reshuffle. CCP is a meat grinder. The internal fights are very bloody because the winner gets more power and wealth. So they launched a series of political class fights and incite hatred among people, make them fight against each other and get profit from it. That's why my grandfather was one victim of the persecuted ones. Thank you, sir.
Talk to us about, in that process, overall, the Great Leap Forward, the Great Famine, and the Cultural Revolution. Walk our audience through what those are and what that meant to the Chinese people.
Thank you. Great Leap Forward is an extreme communist political movement from 1958 to 1960. CCP, led by Chairman Mao Zedong, thought China would surpass USA and HK and the UK in terms of total output of steel. So they ordered every family to lessen the time in planting the crop and smash all their iron cooking utensils and to forge the so-called world-class steel in the traditional stove in the center of each village. Such ridiculous production process was accompanied by political critical assembly in which class enemies were condemned and tortured in public. 30 million people were persecuted to death. And due to almost 3 years of man-made suspension of cropping, the Great Leap Forward straightly resulted in the Great Famine in the next 3 years, from 1960 to 1962. 30 million people died from hunger during the Great Famine.
So hang on for a second. I just want to make sure people understand this. They had a great leap forward to try to industrialize and catch up with the United Kingdom and the United States. And in doing that, they had all the rural villages take all their pots and pans and they want to turn everything into a steel forge, correct? And you're saying in that process of collectivization, 30 million people died in that process. And also because all the peasants are not farming, they're trying to become an international global steel power by taking and melting down all their pots and pans and everything that's metal. That in addition, right after that, the Great Famine, another 30 million starved to death? Is that it? The Great Leap Forward and the Great Famine are interconnected that way?
Yes, it's straightly connected.
What was the response of the Chinese people? Did the Chinese Communist Party have, because one of the things we're trying to make sure Americans know that today of the 1.4 billion people in China, there's only 90 million members of the Chinese Communist Party. And of that, only a very few matter, in the handful of thousands. It's a totalitarian dictatorship. But how did the Chinese people respond in the late 50s and early 60s to the Great Leap Forward and to the Great Famine?
And different people have different opinions because there are two reasons. Because for the Great Famine, it took place mostly in the middle-sized and small cities and rural areas, but not mainly in the southeast China, because where they have rich land, it's very arable, they can crop anything. And for people who are younger, they don't know about it, and the CCP covered it with all their propaganda system through all these decades of years. And some people, even at their 40s now, don't know really what happened at that time. Thank you, sir.
You're saying people in their 40s right now in China are not taught? They're not taught about the Great Leap Forward? They're not taught about the collectivization? They're not taught are not taught anything about the Great Famine?
They were taught some of the knowledge, and the CCP falsified and twisted the knowledge that were input in their minds, such as in old times, Communist Party, some people of the Communist Party did bad things, but we have get rid of them. And now CCP is different. We have reformed successfully. So CCP divert people's attention when they focus on such bloody history. Thank you,
Li Jian, we're going to hold you over until the next break, and maybe we can clean up the a little bit of the static. We're going to hold you over through the break, commercial break. Sell some ads here, pay for this, and we're going to be right back and continue your story. We've got a whole hour and a half of voices of defiance, voices of protest from the Chinese people against the Chinese Communist Party. Go to #WarRoomPandemic. Remember, every day that you get coached up here on this pandemic and the geopolitical consequences, you draw more fire from both Beijing and your betters in the elites of the United States. We're going to return with all of our Chinese guests in a moment.
Pain, swelling, stiffness. When your hands hurt, you can't function. Until now. Introducing the new Copperfit compression gloves with sure grip technology to give you more power, more control, and more agility than ever. Our most advanced copper-infused compression fabric woven into an ultra-lightweight performance glove that fits like a second skin to support relief and recovery of sore muscles and painful joint stiffness. And new Sure Grip bands built in to provide a strong, non-slip grip for more power and control.
You need total control of your hands when you're doing anything with construction. Your hands are your livelihood. The Copperfit gloves are great. The grip is outstanding here with these different ribs. It makes my hand a lot more usable. It just feels like you're just ready to start the job.
The gloves have been a game changer for me. They help with flexibility and pain and soreness. They allow me to do my job even better.
Breathable wicking fabric with an open finger design for full range of motion, feel, and control.
They relieve my pain. When I grab something, I'm not in pain. The support or whatever magic these things do, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter to me what it is. It works.
I get a lot of pain, and it can make it difficult to do the smallest thing. While I'm wearing this, I do not have any pain. I can use it on the keyboard. I can use my phone. I drive with it. I sleep with it. I love this glove.
The new Copperfit compression gloves with Sure Grip technology. Relief from painful muscle and joint soreness. Guaranteed or your money back. Call 1-800-984-5571 or on the web at getcopperfitgloves.com for only $19.99. Order right now and your shipping is free.
I tried it. I use it. I know it works.
Copperfit gloves definitely just make my life better.
I've used Copperfit before. This has helped my hands so much. These things work.
Feel better with copper-infused compression. Ask for it by name. Copperfit compression gloves.
Hello, I'm William Shatner, and you may not know this about me, but years ago, I was diagnosed with a sleep disorder. And like millions of others, I was prescribed sleep equipment. Did you know sleep equipment manufacturers recommend daily cleaning? That's why I use SoClean. It's the perfect complement to my daily routine, and it's hassle-free. SoClean is fast and easy. It keeps my sleep equipment fresh every day without the need for disassembly.
With SoClean, daily maintenance is a snap. All you do is place your equipment in, close the lid, and walk away. Order now and get our premium kit that includes a SoClean 2, a replacement filter, pre-wash solution, and cleaning wipes at no extra cost. Get all this, plus free shipping. Call 1-800-747-1263. Order now and get our premium kit at no extra cost. Call 1-800-747-1263 or go to SoClean.com now.
Welcome back to War Room a Pandemic. This is our special Descent into Hell Part 4, the Chinese people, voices of defiance every week, whether we're talking about Wuhan particularly, or they're talking about how this pandemic started and was really covered up by the CCP. They didn't care about the people in Hubei province. They didn't care about the people in Wuhan. And we've talked every week now for the last we skipped last week. I was on assignment somewhere. You'll hear about that. You'll hear about that later. But we've got a slight technical problem, as we always do when we try to get to the mainland or other places where these people. These are all nom de jures too. You should understand these are not actually their real names, for the simple reasons that the CCP would round up their families and round up them and all of it. Right? This is a totalitarian dictatorship. So it's absolutely a massive problem. I want to welcome now though. Luo goes by the code name Giovanni. He's joining us from outside of China. He's been able to escape. So Giovanni, why don't you tell us about your background and what you particularly bring to this conversation today?
First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Bannon. It's
honored to be on your show today. My background basically is a professional in the professional field, and is in various business. So I know pretty much about the CCP's info war, and what I wanted to talk about it today is the CCP are all bunch of control freaks, and that's their DNA. But often the truth makes them freak out as well about what might be coming next. We all witnessed a few days ago, the CCP Central Television News channel was angrily barking at you, Mr. Bannon, and Mr. Pompeo with all sorts of the smears and the baloney. So simply because they are really petrified of the truth. The truth is the CCP virus was originated from the lab in Wuhan.
What is what they're doing now is what we call information warfare, and it's laid out pretty specifically in this great manual that was put out back in the late 90s, unrestricted warfare. So can you walk us through the way that they suppress the Chinese people, but also their concept of information warfare? Because the people in the United States are just now starting to understand what this is about. And you saw it this week, as you mentioned, these attacks nonstop on Mike Pompeo, attacks on me in the show, people here that come on. They're very upset about these specials that we've had with Chinese voices on here. They're very upset that we focus on the Chinese Communist Party and say that the Chinese people are our allies and Lao Beijing old 100 names. So can you walk through how do they go about information warfare? I mean, you've seen this from the inside. So walk us through what it is.
Basically, the Chinese Communist Party actually they believe at each turning in history, they believe that the chance of their survival always hinge on three magic things. The first one is called arms struggle. The second one is propaganda. The third one is united front.
First one's armed struggle. What does armed struggle mean?
The armed struggle means people have been restricted to having firearms. A CCP firmly believes the ruling power comes out of the gun barrels. So the Chinese people have been under the CCP's barrel to tremble and obey for over 70 years.
Hold on, I want to slow down here because this is obviously, the United States is a big believer. One of our key amendments in our Constitution is the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. So are what you're saying, and Mao's famous saying was that power comes from the barrel of a gun. Political power comes from the barrel of a gun. Are you saying that this is one of the principal ways that the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, has oppressed the Chinese people, is the fact that they don't let them have firearms and that they control all the weapons?
Yes, certainly. Since they took power back in 1949, they believe once people have the right to hold a firearm, probably their ruling power, the government will be toppled by the people one day.
Is there any sense that if you actually had the right to bear arms for Chinese citizens, if that became a right, would, in your mind, many Chinese citizens want to get arms? Would they want to actually be armed?
If we say the government is actually, if it is, I think people should be armed if they want to defend themselves.
So you're saying that you don't think at the local level the Chinese Communist Party could have the power and an oppressive power they had if you had an armed citizenry. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
So how you said the two other ways is the other one is one is arms, which I think for a lot of our audience may come as a revelation. For others of our audience, the deplorables, they say absolutely. This is what we've been arguing from day one, that free men and free women have to have the ability to arm themselves. And so for a lot of our audience, including the Greg Manses and Jack Maxeys, I see a lot of nodding heads over here, who giving hoorahs. The propaganda in United Front. Walk us through what do you mean by propaganda, and how do they use that to suppress? We're used to propaganda being on the outside, propaganda throughout the world to say the United States are foreign devils, and everything we're doing is trying to destroy the Chinese people. We understand that. What's the internal propaganda they use to kind of control the people?
Obviously, with this internet firewalls, people can only hear one voice from the mighty CCP propaganda machine. The whole population inside China has been put on a heavy electronic surveillance, and virtually every single text message has been censored automatically. So you can expect constantly people have knocking on the doors from the local police for sending any so-called sensitive information. That's how they control the media and the information inside of China.
Let me ask you, you're saying that every text message, everything, they monitor all of that?
Yeah, every single pack of information, data, will be automatically censored and monitored.
And so how do people feel comfortable even talking?
People, when they talk, they have to be very cautious, and they have to choose the word correctly. They try to avoid any hassle from the police.
And talk to us last about the United Front. What do you mean by United Front? That's a new term, a new concept that we're putting out here for the American audience and for our worldwide audience. What do you mean by United Front?
The United Front, basically, there's a kind of a network, and extended to all different layers of the societies, and inside of China, the CCP will extend their surveillance through the United Front network on some of the so-called dark spots, such as religious groups, minority ethnic groups, and the business associations, and so on. That's inside China.
And so, how do they use that? How do they use those operations, the United Front? Because we've heard the United Front out here. How do they use that internally to do suppression of the Chinese people?
Basically, the United Front network, they covers all the layers in the societies, so they can, mostly those minority groups, or the party. The head of the party, actually, they are all Communist Party members. So through the network, so they can put all the surveillance on those people, on those groups.
So walk through the combination of armed struggle. They have all the guns and the citizens don't. The combination of this propaganda machine, the combination of this United Front of all these institutions. What is daily life like for a citizen who's not part of the Communist Party in China? Just walk us through what is daily life like in what you're describing as a surveillance state.
Actually, it is worth noting that the Communist Party, since they took power, they have actually designed a personal file system. So virtually from day one, when kids are being enrolled into the local primary schools, and the file will be automatically created, and it will follow them for the rest of their lives.
Hold on, hang over for a second. I want to make sure our audience understands this. You're saying from the time a child is 5 or 6 or 7 years old, he starts school, that the surveillance state, has already started a file on you at the age of 5 or 6?
Correct.
And what is that file supposed to add over time? Is this your own personal dossier?
It's all information about yourself and about your family, about your social network, like your extent, the families, your uncle, your auntie, all the social network connections, and all the information about yourself. So this will go all the way up to when you reach the retirement.
Okay, Lua, and we call you Giovanni when we have met you and talked to you. Understand that you've escaped from mainland China. What I want to do is hold you over through the break. We're gonna take a short commercial break here. I want to come back. We're also going to get Li Zhang back on when we can. When we finish up the static. You've kind of at least shocked me this morning talking about, which Richard Haas I think doesn't get. He never mentions the totalitarian police state, right? He treats it like just a normal, we don't have a problem with them, not a problem. Hey, Richard Haas, I like Richard Haas to hear some of the voices here. Why the American elites? Why have they abandoned the Chinese people? Why are we supporting and why are we in business with a totalitarian dictatorship? More of the horror about what it is to be a Chinese citizen under the Chinese Communist Party when we return on the special edition of Descent into Hell, Part 4.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. And watch this. When you don't need them, the lenses flip up and out of the way. Then snap right back into place when it gets bright again. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. But don't take my word for it. Check out what these people had to say. Take a look at the screen and tell me what you see.
Nothing. Just blank.
Nothing. There's nothing there.
Absolutely nothing.
Flip down those tack glasses and look again.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. There was nothing, and then it just appears an American eagle. It's absolutely insane.
Can you read that fine print on the bottom right there?
Land of the free and home of the brave. God bless America.
Whether you're on the trail or on the golf course, on the water, or on the slopes, with flip-up tack glasses, you'll always see clearly without any glare. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. Only tack glasses feature the precision and quality of genuine Bell & Howell lenses, and they're backed by our lifetime guarantee. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. You get it all, plus free shipping. Here's how to order.
To get your flip-up tack glasses for only $19.99 with free shipping, call 1-800-284-4127. That's 1-800-284-4127, or visit us online at flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127, or visit us at flipupglasses.com. Call or log on now.
In the last year, there were 3 victims of cybercrime every second. When a criminal has your personal information, they can do all sorts of things in your name. Criminals can use ransomware, spyware, or malware to gain access to information, like your name, your birthday, and even your social security number.
That's why Norton and LifeLock are now part of one company, providing an all-in-one membership for your cyber safety that gives you identity theft protection, device security, a VPN for online privacy, and more. And if you have an identity theft problem, we'll work to fix it with our $1 million protection package.
There are new cyber threats out there every day. So protecting yourself isn't a one-time job, it's an ongoing need. Now is the time to make sure that you have the right plan in place. Don't wait.
Norton 360 with LifeLock. Use promo code GET25 to save 25% off your first year and get a free shredder with annual membership. Call now to start your membership or visit lifelock.com/TV.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to Descent into Hell Part 4, The Chinese People, Voices of Defiance. Jack, you've got tell us about you've got some research about Shanghai in the suicide issues that were during the height of the reign of terror of the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, in this period, just after they took power, they were trying to repress anybody who was associated with capitalism or the evil West. And Mao actually made a directive to his people that we shouldn't outright kill the cadre, but he encouraged suicide. And there are accounts that in Shanghai, at the height of this terror, that the citizens of their own free will began to walk in the roads anytime they were around the skyscrapers because they were afraid of being hit by bodies, as jumping out of these tall buildings was the preferred method.
No, it's amazing when you look at the history of the Soviets and you look at the history of the Chinese Communist Party. These devils that took power in the mid-century, in the 20th century, and their reign of terror on their people is absolutely stunning.
Well, and just to destroy people's character to such an extent that your objective is that they kill themselves. I mean, is there anything more evil than that? Because they wanted you to murder yourself because that implied that you were guilty, right? We don't have to execute you. You did it to yourself.
Right. You're showing your guilt by the suicide itself. Okay, I want to return to our guest, Giovanni. His Chinese name's Luo, and these people show tremendous courage by coming on this show and giving us their unexpurgated opinions about the Chinese Communist Party. I want to go back to Huawei and to the technology, unrestricted warfare. They've come at us, in information war and economic war, kind of combined through these telecom companies. Walk us through in a broad sense. What are we looking at here in the West? Because people are, we have people signing up for the boards of directors. We have Americans working with these companies. One of the law firms we have a lot of respect for has just announced that they're going to be, Jones Day is going to be a lobbyist for Huawei. Giovanni, can you walk us through what we're actually looking at when we look at Huawei and these other technology and telecom companies?
Huawei and ZTE, actually, they are the companies that the leading roles in this propaganda and media control game. They're not only for data collecting, but trying to infiltrate the network infrastructure globally, but also acting on various missions that designated by the CCP. Literally, they have been given an open checkbook books to grease palms of the Western society at different levels. So that means that they have a mission. We really cannot get our heads around it sometimes. So we try to figure out why oftentimes some of the Western main media are always buying the CCP stories and the fake news. But we do know that VOA has been in the center with the CCP for a long time. And ironically, the entity itself has been funded by American taxpayers.
So I just want to make sure that I know someone who is on the mainland and just recently got out that you're saying Voice America. You think Voice America is co-opted by the propaganda machine or the propaganda party line of the CCP? Is that what you're saying as a Chinese citizen?
Yes, absolutely. Because they are supposed to have the American voice out to the Chinese. It should be the other way. So, but we have this kind of saga, in play, and oftentimes they have become a mouthpiece of the CCP. To a certain
I just want to I want to get just one other thing straight. You're saying that ZTE and Huawei and all these companies are actually trying to infiltrate the global telecom systems to get into the systems? Is that what that's what you're putting forward?
Yeah, that's because those companies are always being deployed or militarized by the CCP as their economic frontiers for fulfilling the party's political agenda and the goals. That's why they are out there, operating day in, day out.
We only got about a minute and a half left. What about the courage you people showed come on this show? What happens if the Chinese Communist Party finds out that you're actually getting information from the West into mainland China to your friends and associates? What would happen to you?
Basically, they might distance away from me, or they vice versa. They might be in trouble. That's the reality we are facing every day.
What do you define as trouble?
Yes.
No, what's your definition? You said you'd be in trouble. What is your definition of trouble?
Probably I don't have. I might have received calls from my families, ask me to stop, come on the show or go on the public media and post something which is the CCP doesn't like.
Giovanni, thank you very much. I know it takes a lot of courage to come on this, and you guys are at a lot of risk for doing this. Leo, so thank you very much for joining us here on Descent into Hell Part 4. Really appreciate the courage for you to come forward. This will be subtitled later in the day in a Mandarin and get back to your countrymen. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bannon. It's an honor to be on your show today. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. This shows you the courage. They're in a totalitarian state, and we take all this for granted. And we take, and our great intellectuals never, ever. I mean, where are the Solzhenitsyns when we need them?
We've got to start thinking about these people like the victims that we're aware of, the great solidarity movement that freed Poland in the mid-'80s. Americans understand those stories, and we have to remember that these are the same stories. Just Chinese people suffering under the same system.
Same thing. And actually, this may actually be more brutal. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party, what they've done, the hundreds of millions of people they've killed. Okay, short commercial break. We're going to be back with more voices of defiance of the Chinese people against the Chinese Communist Party in a moment.
Everyone loves the benefits of compression socks, but they're just so hard to get on. Until now. Introducing the all-new Copperfit Energy Socks, redesigned for the first ever easy-on, easy-off fit to help reduce swelling, relieve tired, achy muscles, and provide energizing support. A new blend of stretch fabric for the most comfortable, easy-on, easy-off compression fit.
Being a SWAT commander, we train to win. The Copperfit Energy Socks, they didn't feel like other compression socks. They totally exceeded my expectations.
Our most powerful copper-infused fabric, woven into our easy-on, easy-off compression sock to help reduce swelling discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant. Copperfit Energy Socks worked beautifully.
Extra support around the arch and ankles for increased support and relief of muscle aches and pains.
I'm so excited about these socks. I'm so much more